So today we are about to create a poem. Not a nursery rhyme or a greeting card verse, but we are about to create together something rich and layered, something that is part epic and part elegy. And we're going to partake as well in a dance, which is not a bunny hop or a jitterbug, but it's something that is part tango, part samba, part waltz, part stomp, part hip hop. Perhaps these are disturbing ways to view the flower communion for you. But the point that I'm making is that we are about to participate in a ritual, the beauty of which is that we reinvent it each year as a new commitment to our faith. This flower communion ritual, which was conceived by Norbert Capek in 1923 in Czechoslovakia, was a way of affirming the ways that we are all unique and also held together in an exuberant array. And it was offered as a ritual of resolve and resistance at the time when Nazism was rising all around Capek and his Unitarian church. His was a ministry of resistance, and yet he knew that with resistance must come restoration and renewal, and he wanted to plant the seeds for that as well. Theologian Walter Brueggemann says that sometimes as religious people, there are things we need to say that are too large to be held in words. The depths of our sorrow at the ways the human connections are being rent around us. He says in hard times, these ways of being faithful are particularly important. And he says, in case you didn't notice it, we are in hard times. Norbert Capek lived in these times, and he reflected long and hard about what he could create in his congregation, which was, at the time, by far the largest Unitarian congregation in the world. He wondered how he could help people live into what they believed. You know, sometimes people speak about thin or thick faith. Thin faith is what you say, and thick faith is what you decide to do and act upon or shape your life around. Not in any perfect way, because true and courageous commitment cannot be perfect, just in a real and brave sense. I have come to realize this year in particular that we have thin and thick interpretations of our faith. A thin interpretation says that because we have no creed, you can believe and do anything you want and still count yourself among our ranks. A thick interpretation would be that by taking on the richness of this heritage which we have, and all who have found ways to bring more of the human family into full recognition, we commit to making some small piece of it true in our own lifetime. A thin interpretation is very comfortable. A thick interpretation is awkward and heavy and sometimes very hard. A thin interpretation says, I like being with people who are like me, and I like talking bad about people that aren't like me or who don't believe what I believe. A thick interpretation says, I struggle to take up the conversation with others even when it causes me to grow and change. The drama and the difficulty of the years we are in now is that we are being asked to create our own thick interpretations. This flower communion ritual we are about to partake in speaks without words to the power of recognizing the unique beauty of the individual and the collective, exuberant abundance of the whole. The diversity and the unity, the need for brightness and the need for committed resolve and resistance. Capek knew this because, as he spoke out, he knew that words alone were unable to hold either the fears that were in people's hearts or the hope they had in resistance and renewal. Walter Brueggemann, who is a Christian theologian, says the best religious leaders or poets because that is where they find a way to say those things that faith requires of them. What power people always discover is that you cannot finally silence poets. They just keep coming at you in threatening and transformative ways. We celebrate today one of our ancestors who was one of those transformational poets. Each year, this ceremony is a recommitment to the thickness of our faith, to a faith that offers sustenance and restoration in the times when the human family struggles within its own ranks. It's a simple ritual, but it reminds us that we need to both speak out in resistance and also take the time to restore ourselves to a larger vision that is ours to pass down and seed with others. In a few moments, we will get up and begin the living poem that interprets and lives our faith in the beauty of each new life and plant and nurture some new seeds of restoration. That is our power, to dance together into something truly transformative.
It was nearly to the day 95 years ago that this ritual that we are about to recreate together was celebrated in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Norbert Capek had looked to the beauty of the Czech countryside for inspiration and eventually the very elements that would make up this new communion ritual. Capek called the ritual Oslava Květin, which most accurately translates to flower celebration. It was Norbert Capek's wife, Maya, who first brought the communion to North America, celebrating with the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The ritual soon spread to many other Unitarian Universalist congregations and has since become an integral part of many of our yearly worship calendars. While Maya Capek was in the United States, where she had returned to raise money for refugees, the Nazis invaded Czechoslovakia and eventually arrested Norbert for his message of freedom, the gospel of the inherent worth and beauty of every human person, stating that he was too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. He was imprisoned at the concentration camp in Dachau, where he died in 1942. After the war, Maya Capek stayed in the United States, deeply saddened by her husband's death. She continued her relief work with the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Agency. Today we remember Maya and Norbert and celebrate that their message of human hope and decency lives on through their flower celebration. As you have already done this morning, Dr. Capek asked the people of the congregation to bring a flower of their choice from their garden or their field or the roadside. These flowers were collected at the beginning of the worship, the uniqueness of each individual flower symbolic of our own beauty and uniqueness as individuals. Not one of us exactly alike, yet each making contributions to the tapestry of our beloved faith community here at Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. Together, the many different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, and thus it is with our church community. It would not be the same without each and every one of us. The flower communion is a ritual expression of our community. By taking a flower home, we show our willingness and delight in walking together in our search for truth and meaning, disregarding all that might divide us. We take home a flower brought by someone else, which symbolizes our shared celebration of community. This communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. I know that there are plenty of flowers, so that those of you who are visiting for the first time this morning or simply forgot to bring a flower, there is one there for you too. I invite you this morning as you approach the flowers do so quietly and reverently with a sense of how important it is for each of us to address our world and one another with gentleness, justice, and love. Take a flower different from the one you brought. This ritual is not about finding the perfect flower. As in religious community, we are called to be in covenant in the diversity that is made up by the whole. As you take a flower, note its particular beauty and shape, and be reminded that each of us contributes in our own unique and special way. Our closing hymn this morning was written by Ladysmith Black Mambazo member Joseph Shambalala, who, riding in a taxi in New York, was overwhelmed by homesickness. At that moment, these words came to his mind: "Be still my heart, even here I am home." May the flower we take home today and each flower we witness in our days to come remind us that wherever we may be in our hearts, we are always home. So before Reverend Leslie reminds us how to partake in the ceremony, I invite you to join with me in the spirit of meditation and prayer while I use the words of Dr. Norbert Capek that he first used in 1923 to consecrate the flowers on our altar this morning. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. May it be so.
So as Reverend Neal has said, we will begin our flower communion, and the purpose of this communion is not to choose the perfect flower. It is to let a flower choose you. If there is someone seated near you who would prefer not to make the movement up to the table and back, please ask them if you may get them a blossom to bring back to them. We're going to have, the ushers will let you know when your row is up. We're going to come up the outer aisles and down the center. We'll keep that flow going, and that way we do not have collisions. But what I really want to ask you to do, because this is to me the biggest gift of this entire ceremony, is as you are partaking, watch not only your flower and the flowers, watch the beautiful flow of your congregation around you, for that is where so much beauty lies. So let us begin our flower communion.